When we think of a slasher film, a psychopath stalking their victims with a blade or an axe or even a chainsaw comes to mind. Among the most famous from the golden age of slasher films are Halloween, in which Michael Myers pursues promiscuous teenagers with a kitchen knife, Friday the 13th, where Jason Voorhees, again, pursues promiscuous teenagers, this time with a machete, and Candyman, where the titular character goes after anyone who speaks his name 5 times in a mirror, this time with a hook. Probably the biggest influence on these films was Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which takes place at a gloomy motel and maintains suspense by keeping the killer's identity a secret until the end. Despite coming out in 1960, it was far from the first film to embody these tropes, which began in the silent era with Roland West's The Bat. It opens with a jeweler receiving an anonymous letter saying that someone who calls themselves the Bat will steal his emeralds, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop him. This turns out to be the case when he investigates a noise outside, and leaning through the window, is murdered by a man dressed in leather to make himself look like a bat. This calls to mind the opening scene in Halloween, where the killer commits his first murder, and establishes that the rest of the characters are also in danger. Meanwhile, a writer called Cornelia Van Gorder is renting an eerie mansion, whose owner has recently been found dead. Her maid sets up a dangerous trap to keep them safe from the Bat, while her nephew wants to get as far away as possible. Much like A Nightmare on Elm Street, the characters disagree on how they should react to the villain. The film also incorporates elements of comedy, as you can see in the following clip. Following this, a bank robber goes missing. Cornelia's niece brings a new gardener into the house, and her nephew gets shot by the Bat. Detective Maletti arrives on the scene, and having caught her niece going through the dead man's pockets for a blueprint of the house, accuses her of searching for a secret room. Hidden compartments in a dilapidated building are another staple of slasher films, with the Leatherface emerging from behind the iron door of a murder chamber, and Norman Bates keeping the corpse of his mother in a secluded basement. Another detective arrives, and a mysterious call is placed to the house, but no one speaks, allowing them only to hear groans of distress. Scream may have taken inspiration from this, for having the killer menace his victims on the phone. After this, a circular light shines on the wall, with the shadow of a bat in its center. But after investigating, the group finds the shape was merely caused by the fluttering of a moth through some headlights. Misdirection is a frequent device of slasher films, for the pathos of having a build-up without payoff makes it all the more startling when the killer actually does strike. Cornelia's niece describes the murder to absolve herself of suspicion, but admits having taken the blueprint, which is then found to be missing. The new gardener is revealed to be the missing bank robber, prompting a detective to arrest him for impersonation, robbery, and murder. Cornelia's niece prevents this, revealing that they were to be married, and therefore, because he's trusted, he couldn't have been the one to steal the blueprints. A search commences for the hidden room, with one character tapping on the walls for a hollow sound, causing others to investigate a supposedly haunted ballroom. The candles go out when lit, and a shape floats towards them, but it turns out to just be the butler with a lamp, another case of misdirection. Meanwhile, the character who began the search attacks Maletti, knocks him unconscious, and hides him in another room. A beaten man then breaks into the house, with no way of identifying himself. This feeling of uncertainty is replicated by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in which the travelers pick up a hitchhiker, and it's initially unclear whether he intends on doing them harm. The gardener sees a mysterious figure in a hat, and as he leaves to tell the others, the Bat's shadow passes by the door. The Bat sets up a system of wires that attach to a light switch. Outside, the gardener sees someone on the roof, and recognizes him as the supposedly dead owner of the mansion. This leads to the typically action-packed climax of the slasher film, like Laurie Strode's final battle with Michael Myers, and Nancy grabbing Freddy Krueger out of Dreamworld to confront him in A Nightmare on Elm Street. When the niece finally locates the secret room behind a fireplace, the Bat confronts her, demanding the combination to her safe. She escapes, which causes him to be captured and held at gunpoint, but he activates the wire system that turns out the lights. Like Halloween, Child's Play, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, the finale takes place in the dark. The Bat runs outside but is caught in the trap that was placed at the beginning of the movie. They remove his mask and are shocked to see the face of Detective Maletti. The beaten stranger announces that he is the true Detective Maletti, and that the man underneath is the real Bat, who stole his identification. He is finally defeated when Cornelia Van Gorder tells him that the gun is empty, and to test it, he fires at the ground, which gives Maletti the chance to disarm him. Though less bloody than the slasher films it would go on to inspire, the Bat has had a lasting influence, albeit an indirect one. It was a box office hit, but became one of the most coveted lost films until the 1980s, when the tapes were finally discovered and restored. It did, however, have a sequel called The Bat Whispers, and one of the first horror remakes. The 1959 version of The Bat is my favourite, because it stars Vincent Price with his iconic voice.
What would you do for $500,000?
Anything short of murder.
Links to both the original and the remake are available in the description.